Okay, and we're recording. So yeah, today we're going to talk. We're at the end of the year, we're at the end of 2020, and we talk a little bit about what's coming up in 2021. And we have a lot of what's called squares going to be happening. And I was just describing before we started, and I'll say it again. We have cycles where all these planets are cycling around the sun, but it's really kind of from our point of view that we see everything. You know, here's the Earth over here. So we have to then switch points of view because all this is then making it aspects to us, because it only makes sense because we look out and we see everything from our point of view. But I want to give you this God point of view when we look at this, just because it's just a little model and you can understand it. So we have all these things going around the sun, and they have different speeds. Of course, the planets closest are going to go the fastest. I was saying Mercury is the closest to the sun, and it zips around. It goes 3 times a year. It'll go in one of our years. It goes around 3 times. And then the outer planets like Pluto, it takes like 238 years to go all the way around. It takes Saturn 29 years to go all the way around. It takes Uranus 84 years to go all the way around. It takes Jupiter 12 years to go all the way around, et cetera, et cetera. Mars and Venus, like 1 year to 2 years, because they're closer. All right, so you get a little bit of this. So one of the things that's really cool when we study astrology in history is we look for when these cycles line up. And I gave you the example of like a runner. Okay, you're the faster runner, you're running along, and then there's a slower runner up there, and you're gonna catch up to the slower runner. And when you catch up to them, you're called conjunct. You're right alongside of them. You're the same space, except one body length over, but you're together on the track, like whatever, the same space. That's intense. You know, you can interact, you can look at that person and elbow them or trip them, or you can lean over. I mean, there's dynamics that could happen because they're right there. And depending on how, is it your teammate or is it another team member, how you're going to interact. So that is the conjunct, and that's intense. And there's some of that happening now. We'll talk about some of those. And then there's also going to be, okay, say you pass that person now. Okay, then you're going to get 90 degrees to them. I can't do my sign there. You're going to run in. Okay, so say I'm going to give you a reference. If it were on a clock dial and you are right next to them and it's at 12 o'clock, when it gets over to 3, you're going to be at 90 degrees away. And that's a square. 90 degrees is a square. And then when you get to 6 o'clock, it's going to be 180 degrees away. I can't get my hands back that far. And then when you get to 9 o'clock, you're going to have the square coming back up on lapping that runner again. And then when you get back to 12, you'll be at that conjunction. So there's other angles, but I'm just giving you those easy ones right now. There's the trine and the semi-sextile, and it's just all different degrees apart. That's all it is. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about the square. So when something is square, I'm going to actually go share my screen and start showing you a few things. Let's go to what I want to show you first. Let's go over to, is it this one? Bear with me. Where's the PowerPoint? Squares, and here we go. Okay, share that one. Okay, let me get rid of that. Come on. Move this. I got to always set these things over in the way. Okay. Okay, so we have squares here. All right, the square. Contrary to the reputation, squares not necessarily bad. They just show that work will be involved in producing the favored outcome. Considered one of the decidedly hard aspects at 90 degrees, square is bound to produce a little tension between the involved planets' energies, but a little tension can be helpful sometimes. Why isn't that in the way? So it illuminates a stressful situation that can be resolved with compromise and effort. By putting in the work and resisting the urge to be stubborn, the square aspect can be an opportunity to find a resolution to an issue, even if it's challenging to do so. So think about it. I'm going to try to give you many ways of thinking about what a square is. It's a hard angle. It's like you're running forward and all of a sudden you do a hard left. Okay? You're going this way and all of a sudden you're going to go that way. That's a square. Okay, it's not a nice little turn, it's a bloop. So it's tension, you know, but it also is boundaries, and it's the square is what makes the corner. And you can't have a house that has a sound foundation and structure without squares. If you didn't have the way to make sure that those corners of your house lined up, you wouldn't really be able to put the roof on very well. All right, so it's considered, again, one of these hard aspects because it does require stressful change. You know, it's bound to produce tension between planetary energies. So if you think about the seasons, every season is square to the next because there's 4 of them, and we have to divide that whole circle up, right? Okay, so if we're going to start at spring, and then the next season is summer, that's square. It's 3 signs apart. And then the next one is fall, and then the next one is winter. And we start all the way over again. And those are all called cardinal signs because they're the beginning. A cardinal sign is the beginning of each season. So they're 3 signs apart. That 90 degrees is what we're talking about. So it's tension, it's conflict, it's power struggles. It's like, uh-oh, when 2 planets are square, it's a tug of war, you know, because we have some differences there. Get ready for a showdown or a battle of wills. And this is in the world now, because we're going to show you some squares that are coming up, but it's also when you compare 2 people's charts. If you compare 2 people's moons, that's how your emotions are. You've got one person's moon in a water sign. Well, let's just say it this way. One person's moon is in Aries, let's put it that way. And they're all like hot-headed and they're fiery emotionally. And then you have the next person, or say another one, their moon in Cancer. And that's all feeling and emotional. And you put them together, they're going to react emotionally totally different. You know, the Aries one is going to be hothead, volatile. It's going to be cussing and swearing and throwing things and reacting. And the Cancer moon is going to go sulk and cry and be depressed. So totally different ways of, you know, that square is going to show. And if you have one person in your household that's one way and another one that's that way, and then you're squaring certain things, there can be some really, really interesting dynamics. This is what's cool about astrology, and I think everybody should learn this so we know how we affect other people. So it gives you a little salt on yourself, and then it gives you a little salt for other people. You know, there's so-and-so, they have a blah, 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 and it's open up again, or it's like we're knocking heads. I understand it. Okay, so it gives you some allowance. All right, get ready for a showdown, a battle of wills. Each side will dig in its heels and resist the necessary compromise yet to resolve the stress of a square. Each side must give a little and meet the other in the middle. Stubbornness ensues. The cosmic struggle is real. All right, they share the same astrological quality. So qualities, if you remember, and even if you don't, we did if you go back on Astro Breeze, we did a group on these qualities, but just think about it. Every season has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Then the next season, beginning, middle, end. Next one, beginning, middle, end. Next one, beginning, middle, end. All the beginnings are all square to each other. All the middles are all square to each other, and all the ends are all square to each other. Just think about it. I mean, you've got a circle, right? And you divide it half, and then you're going to go to the next one, half and quarter, and then one more time. So what that means is, okay, which signs are square to each other? So, we have Aries, Cancer, Capricorn. We should have a couple more of these here. We should have Libra in this one too. There it is. Okay, they're just showing, okay, this is a little quiz here. So Aries, Cancer, and Capricorn would all be. Taurus, Leo, and Aquarius, they're all fixed signs. That would be. So actually, that's kind of confusing. I don't want to confuse you with that, make you think too hard. People don't understand that. But anyway, just think about it like that. We'll get into a little bit more. So when the planets in our natal chart, that's what what we were born with, are square to each other, each planet becomes stressed. There's no easy way to win that is available to either of them, meaning that each has to put in an effort to meet the other halfway. So in the planetary aspect of square, neither planet will want to compromise either. So it kind of creates an internal conflict within the self. So let's talk about a couple of the planets. Actually, I want to show you, I'm going to stop share and go to a different screen. I'm going to show you a chart of today. Oh, come on. Make it larger. There we go. Okay, I hope it's big enough for everybody. Okay, this is the chart of today. And I just ran this a little bit before this class, and I just set it for Gainesville. And we know right now we are the December 22nd, and yesterday was the solstice. That meant that the sign of the sun moved into a cardinal sign. It moved into winter. It moved into Capricorn. And we can see over here the symbol for the sun, right over here, the circle with the dot. It says 1 degree, and this little squiggly thing is the sign of Capricorn, 30 minutes. So right now it's already moved in a degree, and the sun moves about a degree a day. Right? It'd have to get all the way back in a year. So it's like a degree, it's like 1.000 little bit. So a degree a day, because it's got to go 360 degrees in a year. Of course, the Earth, you know, it's got to go all the way around. So it's back to where it was a year ago, or each year ahead. So that just moved in. And then yesterday, also, the Mercury planet moved, the planet Mercury moved into that as well. But it's moving faster. It's flying. It's moving like 2 degrees a day. It's going around the sun. And it zips around the sun. We'll talk about retrogrades sometime soon because we have some coming up. But anyway, I just wanted to mention it. So anyway, these are close. Yesterday, they were both at 0 degrees or 1 degree. Just, you know, early in the day, there was 0, and then the sun moved into 1, and then it was Mercury is already, because it's late in the day now, it's already almost, you know, it's already into 3 degrees. So these two, Mercury would be the faster runner. It's coming up to the sun. Hi, sun, and then starting to move past it. Pluto is still in Capricorn. It's at 23 degrees. It's going to be there for another like 3 years. It moves about 3 degrees a year. So it's, you know, it'll be out in 2.5 years or so, but it's there. Now, we just got out of this year, or just, I mean, just the other day, these two planets up here. So the one that looks like the number 4 is Jupiter, and the one that looks like a chair right here is Saturn. And you'll notice that they are at both 0 degrees, 0, 0, and then just some odd minutes into Aquarius. Yesterday, they just conjuncted together. Saturn moved in there first. What was Saturn moved in, I think, on the 17th. Slower moving planet, but it's ahead in the orbit. And Jupiter is faster moving, so it was coming up, but it was, you know, a little bit behind in its orbit, and it just passed it. It went in on the 19th, and then now it's starting to speed ahead. You can see that it's at 44 minutes. This is at 36 minutes. So it just went ahead a little bit today. Does that make sense? If not, stop me and say something. Back to the, I mean, if you're looking over here, these little planets, you know, they're just like one was just coming up. Here's Saturn over here and Uranus or whatever. Let's just put up here, Jupiter. Saturn was ahead. So you can see it this way. Saturn was ahead, and then Jupiter was coming up, and then it caught up and passed it. So last year, they were both all in Capricorn. We had all that stuff in Capricorn, and then in January, we had this big lineup. You can see right now, like we're just in the beginning, we're at the end of December, so in another week or two, these are going to be deeper into Capricorn, closer to Pluto. See, Pluto is moving real slow. Last year, it was only 22 degrees. Like in another, you know, it's going to look, it's at 54. So in another few days or a week or so, it's going to move into 24 degrees, but it's only gone 2 degrees in a year. That's why I said it only moves like 2 to 3 degrees each year. So anyway, these guys were on the, I think it was the 12th of the month. They were close to here, and, you know, we had a lineup there. And then these two, Saturn was there, was close to there. And then Jupiter was not quite there yet. Jupiter goes through a sign a year, but all year, Saturn and Jupiter have been together with Pluto all over here, and you can see how close they are in this area in Capricorn. That's why we've had such a lockdown year. I mean, the orbits of these planets, now if you think about it, they have to lap. You know, we've got different cycles. It takes, think about just a second here. Pluto, 238 years to go around the sun. Saturn, every 29, and then Jupiter every 12. So they do these dances, and then every so many years they line up. It's been like, well, Jupiter and Saturn, these two have an 800-year cycle where every 20 years they conjunct, but then they go through, when they conjunct, they're in either like they just moved from being in earth signs into, now they're going to conjunct for the next 200 years into air signs. That means every time they get together, when they lap them, they'll be in an air sign. And Aquarius, even though it looks like water waves, it's not, it's an air sign. Just think of air waves, maybe, it's not water. So, and that, so that's like a cycle within a cycle within a cycle. I don't want to get you too confused on these cycles, but they, you know, these planets lap each other and then they come together. And then when all three of these were together, it's been, I think it was in 1200 when actually all three of those were together. So if we wanted to look at what was happening, that's, you know, we were going into the Inquisition. There was lots of reformations. I think Magna Carta signed, you know, religious freedom. There's a lot of stuff going on in here. So what we'd like to do in astrology is study when these planets make these same aspects, you know, what was happening the last time. I'm going to show you some that have the square. But anyway, that's what's been going on. But you can see now they're at 0 degrees, which is interesting. All right, everything else. On top of the chart, there's Neptune. That's not a part of all of this going on. We'll talk about that some other time. There's the moon. The moon moves fast. It's every 2.5 days, it's in another sign. Here's Mars, and look at this. I want you to notice that Mars is 23 degrees. This is one thing we're going to talk about. Here's Uranus over here at 6 degrees Taurus. This is the big daddy, one of the big daddies that's going to be making some aspects. What else here? And back over here on the far side, we have Venus over here. Okay, let's look at this. I want you to always look at degrees. I want degrees to pop out at you that are the same. So I want you to think in your head, you should be seeing the 23 degrees should have popped out at you. You said, oh, I heard her, she said 23, another one 23. Okay, so you got two, think 23. So they're going to have some kind of mathematical aspect between them. So we want to know what they are. So as you study astrology, this will just start coming to you. But when you're first new to it, you have to count. You count the signs. So here's a sign, and we're going to go from 23 degrees of this sign to 23 degrees of this sign, and that would be 30 degrees. Hang with me. And then if we're going to go 23 there to 23 the next one, that'd be 60. And then from 23 Pisces to 23 Aries, that'd be 90. So we go from here to here would be 30, and then we go to 60, and then it goes to 90. So they are square. So these two are 90 degrees apart. And if you know, like I said, the cardinal fixed mutable, you know that Capricorn, which Pluto is in Capricorn here, 23 Cap. And then Mars, 23 Aries. Aries is another cardinal sign. They're the beginning of the season. That's the beginning of spring. Here's the beginning of winter. They're 90 degrees apart. So this is almost going to be exact. Like right now, it's starting into tomorrow. We're going to have a Mars Pluto square. I mean, let's let that sink in just a little bit. In two cardinal signs, two signs that are like kings. They both want to be boss. So I wouldn't be surprised in the world if we see some really big, violent, or Mars, aggressive transformations. You know, Pluto is transformation. So I would pay attention to the news today through tomorrow. Something, you know, Mars is energy. It's me first. It's aggressiveness. It's energy. It's volatility. And then we have that combined in a square, which is, you know, if it combined in a trine or something, it would be nicer, but it's a square. It's like, with the planet that's bringing up transformations. You know, Pluto is big transformations. Think about death, rebirth. So this is going to be an interesting day, this next, I say 36 hours. Usually as you come into something rather than after it. So look at the difference here. We've got 54 minutes, and then Mars is getting closer. It's 38 minutes. We can look if you have an ephemeris, you know, or you can get them online. This is an ephemeris. And what an ephemeris is, real quick, is a book of just tables. And it's, let me show you, here, let me just show you January next year, because I think I can show it to you over here. You'll see that it has the month and the year, and then across the top are the little glyphs for each planet, plus a few more things, but don't worry about it. So it's each planet, and then going down is each day of the month. So then we can just go see the actual, you may not see it perfectly. I can't see exactly what you're seeing, but what I want you to see is that you see the degrees, and there's different degrees, and you can just go look these all up. And I can maybe, when we get back to I'll show you online, maybe show you one a little bit better, but I just wanted to point that out one there. So we looked these up, and this book is from 2000 to 2050. I have another one for the 1900s, all from 1900 to 2000. And, you know, this is clockwork. These planets move. This is what's so cool about astrology. It's scientific. I mean, you can go look this stuff up. That has a rate of, you know, orbit. It's not going to change, you know, unless a planet or something bumps into it or something. But, you know, that's not the norm. Okay, so what am I doing on time? We're doing good. So this is now what's going on. So we have this square coming up. Now I want to show you what we got coming up, and then I'll go back and help you understand what's happening. So these things keep moving, but just I'll keep this in your head a little bit, and I'm going to show you. Let's look at the 6th. The 6th of January is going to be another key day. There'll be a lot going on this day. So let's look at just some of these things that are coming on and around this, because there's a lot of things happening in and around this day. But I just picked that one because there's supposed to be some interesting things happening that day. Looky here, down here, looky here. The moon is in Libra that day. Libra is another cardinal sign. It's the first of fall or autumn. And moon, you know, like I said, the moon takes 2.5 days to go through a sign. So sometimes the moon is a trigger. And here at 4 in the afternoon, you know, Eastern time, it's going to be at 23 degrees, which is going to be approaching this Pluto here at 24. So it's, you know, on that day, late in the afternoon, we're going to see the moon making a square over to Pluto, one thing. So we know that there's going to be some emotional transformations. So we kind of like try to find a key word of some of these planets and then in signs. And I'll have to do another class. We'll have to do one that gives you keywords. We'll have to just go through keywords, so that way you start thinking about that. But think moon, emotional. You know, you have your moon. Woman has her moon time. It's where you get emotional. So the moon, and we just know that it's going to be in square to Pluto. You don't even have to know these signs. You just maybe have to know that. It's like, moon, emotions, Pluto, transformations. Uh-oh. Sounds like it's going to be like a massive PMS day for everybody. And then the moon, as it gets a little bit further, is it, you know, because moon's moving fast. Look at here. It's going to then, well, first, earlier that day, let me back up, because this is at 4 and in the afternoon. You look up in here in the upper left, you see it's at 4:17. That's when I ran this chart. So if we just project back a few hours or earlier that day, we know the moon is going to be earlier in the sign. But what I'm saying, the reason I'm saying that is earlier that day, it's going to start to square the moon. Look, because the moon's at 16 degrees. And then like right around, you know, 4 o'clock, it's going to square Pluto. And then a little bit later, half hour, an hour later, it's going to square Mercury at 27 degrees. And then it's going to change signs, and it's going to square Saturn, and, you know, and then it's going to square Jupiter. So all in a row. So I'm predicting that this day, January 6th and 7th, is going to be rough. It's going to square all this stuff, and it's going to create a lot. It is going to go bing, 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 bing. It's going to square one after another. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 signs. Actually 6 signs. Actually, it's going to square 5, and then it's going to oppose another one. So it's kind of, actually, it's going to oppose, yeah, right over here late. It's going to come over here, and it's going to oppose, actually, both of those. Before it gets out of Libra here, it's going to oppose Mars, because look at here, Mars is opposing that. Mars is in Aries. So as the moon is traveling through, the moon is going to trigger a lot of stuff this day. Oh my God, it's going to hit everything. Maybe except Venus that day. But it's going to start in the afternoon then, or start hitting, I should actually look up the exact time. But anyway, it's going to hit these angles. What's that mean? it's going to create a square to all of these. And then as it hits that 29 degrees, see, it's 23. So we're going to just go, well, let's start with 16. At 16, it's going to square the moon. At 24, it's going to square Pluto. At 27, it's going to square Mercury. At 29, it's going to oppose Mars. And then at 2 degrees, it'll move into the next sign. So then at 2 degrees, it'll square Saturn. At 4 degrees, it'll square Jupiter. And at 6 degrees, it'll oppose Uranus because it'll be in the next sign. It'll be in Scorpio. So this is going to be a rough day. I'd stay home. The moon is going to trigger a lot of stuff, but then all of these guys are all making aspects to one another. So this is going to be quite a messy day, complicated day. And then let's go look over at the 21st of January 21st, 2021, and just see what we see here. We got this other grouping. It's, I'm again looking at the moon. The moon is in Taurus that day, and I did it at 4 in the afternoon. So it has just gone over and conjuncted. It's it's kind of gone over this, but as it's conjuncted this, it has also squared all of this stuff. So it starts out early and starts to square Sun, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury. And then the day before it, when it was in Aries, it's going to be squaring this stuff. So we're going to have a similar energy. It's going to be repeated again. The moon is going to hit these things again. So I would mark these days as some really intense conflict. All right, now I'm going to share what this means a little bit more, but I wanted to show you how you can look at this stuff and how you can look it up and how you can see and read these things. So we'll go into square now a little bit more. Let's go back to our PowerPoint. I got to share my screen. Share screen. Here we go. Share. All these steps to get to. Okay, so all right, we said this one. Neither planet will want to compromise. All right. So let's talk about these couple of planets that are going to be making aspects to each other. So we have Saturn, and we've had Saturn making some problems all year. We've been dealing with this Saturn archetype, and I want to really hammer this home a little bit. Saturn is about, again, it's similar to the square. You can think Saturn and square, very similar. Restriction, limitation, structure, boundaries, physical manifestation, and time. It's also associated with security, stability, organization, control, judgment, and the law. And we've been seeing a lot of intense Saturn aspects this year, as you all should just be, you should be thinking, have we been dealing with this all year? Yes. As well as authority, responsibility, wisdom, tradition, and the past, maturity, old age, and death. Saturn energy is slow, heavy, dense, bringing repression, defeat, failure, and endings, but also increased patience, effort, endurance, and concentration, all necessary for building structures that last. As a lord of karma, Saturn also represents necessity, harvest, and reaping what you sow. So when we are thinking about these aspects, instead of thinking restriction and limitation, turn that into maybe control, security, stability, organization, patience, effort, endurance, concentrating. Okay. All right. Uranus, we haven't talked about this a lot yet, but we're going to have some interesting relationships with those two and Jupiter. And we'll talk about this one for now. So the Uranus archetype represents the need for freedom and change, the desire for originality and independence from tradition and the status quo. It's associated with sudden and unexpected breakdowns and or breakthroughs, flashes of insight and awakenings, rebellion and revolution. I kind of think of the Tower card in tarot. Uranus energy is unpredictable and electrifying, speeding things up and creating excitement and restlessness. As the higher octave of Mercury, Uranus stands for universal mind and the cosmic trickster. It stimulates innovation and invention in science, aviation and space travel, as well as individuality, brilliance and genius, and the drive for reform and liberation. But it can also be disruptive, eccentric, and defiant. So we're going to have some, think Saturn and Uranus. Okay, so we have that structure, that discipline, the limitations, and now a want for freedom, change, independence, innovation. So we can imagine what's going to happen. Now, we have had a lot of things with Saturn and Jupiter. And then I'm just going to mention Jupiter because I didn't put up here, but Jupiter is the great magnifier. It's expanding. It expands and magnifies everything. So we have Saturn and Jupiter been doing this dance all year, and Saturn restriction, Jupiter expansion. And they have this 20-year cycle that they're always in. And right now they've lined up. So they're facing off with expansion and contraction. But they make a balance. Think about it this way. We got the Jupiter friend that goes to Saturn. It goes, hey Saturn, let's go to Tampa today. Hey, I'm gonna pick, let's go and let's ditch work and let's go party and have fun. You never do anything, and let's go. Let's just, there's a parade and there's this great restaurant and there's this and that. And Saturn goes, well, let's see. I have patients starting at 2, and I have to be. I don't have my real good shoes, and then I have to have a certain lunch at 2, and my car's not working that well. But so they compromise. They go, well, we'll take your car, but I got to be back by 2. So Saturn is putting in some parameters, saying, okay, I can go, but my car's not good. Let's take your car, and I'll drive. But I got to be back by 2, and I got to have lunch at 12. And if we do that, then we can go. And Jupiter goes, okay, good, I can go, yay. So they have this dance that they do together. And if they have that imbalance, Jupiter lightens up Saturn, and Saturn puts in a little like, well, how are we going to do this? And then Saturn also goes, hey, who's paying for lunch? And Jupiter goes, oh, I guess me. It's my idea. So anyway, that's that dance. So now we still have that, but now we got a third player here. We had Pluto, but Pluto's away from that. Now Pluto's going to be by himself. And now we have Uranus coming in. And Uranus is going to be making squares to these guys. Okay, they have those two together that I showed you. They're at that 0 degrees, Saturn and Jupiter. That's going to be making squares soon to Uranus. So we have this. We got 2 things going on. We're going to have structure and limit, and then this need for freedom, which is going to be like, and then we have magnifying and making large the need for freedom. So this is going to be quite interesting. Okay, so planet, the glyph or symbol. I wish I had a picture of it here. Well, anyway, I thought I had it on here. But there's esoteric meaning for these glyphs of the symbols. So I'm just going to have you look that up on your own. Just Google planet glyph of Uranus, and you'll see it's like 2. Actually, I should draw it for you right here. It's like 2 half moons. I could show you with the cross of knowledge in the middle, and then the sun on the bottom. So we got the 2 half moons, the cross of matter in the middle, and then 2 moons looking out either way. So the receptivity over the spirit. So we've got, so there's esoteric meaning, that cross of matter is over your spirit, and it's open to receptivity. Okay, so it goes on. It goes really deep. I'll just give you the what is it? The 5-cent version of that one. Anyway, it's got an unusual orbit. Let's see, there's some cool stuff here. It rotates on its side so that it presents each of its poles to the sun in turn during its orbit, causing both hemispheres to alternate between being bathed in light and lying in total darkness over the course of the orbit. Uranus takes 84 years to orbit the sun, spending about 7 or 8 years in each sign. All right, remember I said Jupiter spent 1 year in each sign. Saturn spends 2.5 years in each sign. And now we have Uranus spending 7 to 8 years in each sign. So you can see every so often these things will line up and create patterns. All right. Uranus is ingenuity. It's new or unconventional. It's being individual. Electricities, inventions, democracy, revolutions. It also governs genius. It's the planet of rebellion and upheaval. Put that in red. Okay, so we're going to have aspects, squares, rebellion and upheaval. It's a planet of eccentricity. It speaks of individuals who are different, strange, out of the ordinary, in some sort of fight with the system and the state. And among them are scientists, astrologers, homosexuals, and all of us who stand out and have a humane initiative to fight for someone's rights, including our own. It's a planet of gambling, chance, risk, leading to dangerous activities when afflicted. So we can see what's coming up. And sometimes endangering our well-being by chance. That's why I'm staying home those days. Strange circumstances, extreme choices that we make in spite of rational opinions, especially those of our fathers. It is a ruler of all humanitarian efforts and doesn't care so much about the individual as much as the utopian image of the entire society. So you can see an entire society globally is going to be affected by this. You see global revolt, global transformation, global upheaval. All right, why do I have to move that window? From the description of the archetypes, we can see that Saturn and Uranus don't get on. They represent energies that appear to be opposed, but they both rule Aquarius in modern astrology, but not in traditional astrology. Don't worry about that if it doesn't make sense. We'll talk about rulers another time. But alignment between these two represents a collision or meeting between the old and the new, times when change becomes unavoidable. Times when change becomes unavoidable. I had to say that again because that's the underlying impetus, I think, of what we're going to see with this. All right, Uranus pushes for freedom and revolution, stirring up chaos and uncertainty, while Saturn seeks to maintain stability through order and control. So this is going to play out in a lot of different ways. I mean, we've got so many things going on. You know, we've got an election that's fraught with fraud. It's hard to say. We've got at the end of an old cycle, we've got people rebelling against parties. We've got the whole world, pushing back against the draconian dictates. And I can't say too much about what they are. I think you all know, otherwise I'll get another strike and take them off my YouTube channel. But we've got lockdowns caused by things all over the, countries are locked down, and there's a definite draconian force behind it, and that is what is going to be challenged. Let me just put it that way. So this can produce extreme tension and crisis within the individual and society. It's like it's the lockdown, not the little thing that is causing the problems, that is causing the third world to starve, that is causing a lot of that. Let me just put it in those terms. Okay. This always plays out depending on which planet has the upper hand. Saturn can bring stability and order, as well as oppression and limitation. And, we're going to see both of these things. We're going to see, I think we're going to see stability in certain areas of the country and oppression and limitation definitely in the blue ruled areas. So Uranus can disrupt as well as awaken and liberate. So that's what's going to happen. Okay, so Saturn-Uranus alignments coincide with periods of revolution, political upheaval. There may be sudden breakthroughs and or breakdowns that leads to reform of society. Long-term problems are revealed. We're going to see some shit fly. It leads to the reform of society. Sometimes through sudden collapse of systems that need reform and structural change. So get ready for this. I would say get ready on a lot of levels. I would have toilet paper. I would have water. I'd have water purification. I'd have extra food. This is in January. I'd make sure that you've got fuel or clothing or warmth. There could be some disruptions, for sure. And it's hard to say where, but we can just see through this that there's going to be problems. And I live in a hurricane state, so I'm always prepared. It's something that you just do. So I would urge everyone to be as prepared as you can. So new structures can be found for revolutionary ideas, and technological innovation brings the potential for progress and the disruption of the status quo. Common manifestation during these alignments include sudden financial and economic collapse. Make sure you have cash and coins if possible. Revolutions, protests, and civil unrest, terrorism and radicalization, industrial accidents and accidents involving aircraft, technological breakthroughs and or disruption, political and social breakthroughs to a new order, gaining of rights and freedom or loss. So this is interesting too. Terrorism, industrial accidents. You know, there could be attacks on the infrastructure. And I don't want to get into the politics of who and all that. I'm just, because it doesn't matter. I mean, it does, but right, it could be. And that's what I'm saying. You may have to be ready for that. You know, power disruptions, internet disruptions, water disruptions, you know, things that may be disrupted, water, power. Okay, just a little bit of that. Okay, so with harmonious alignments like a trine or sextile, it's easier to find balance between the old and the new, and you're less likely to throw the baby out with the bathwater. The hard alignments can be more challenging, and Uranus sometimes goes too far in demanding change that breaks the system. But equally, if Saturn tries to repress the need for change, then Uranus can trigger explosions and violent shocks to the system. There can be unexpected and disproportionate reactions to events, as well as the breakdown of law and order, and situations that get out of control in devastating ways. The energies of Saturn and Uranus often combine in unpredictable ways. Social reforms may start out with good intentions, but can become distorted into ideologies that become authoritarian or totalitarian. There may be revolutionary uprising followed by a backlash and repression, or it goes the other way with authoritarian control that triggers an uprising and resistance, or a mixture of the two. All right, so here's some past squares. This was Saturn and Pluto was in an opposition at this time, and then Uranus and Pluto was square, similar to what we're experiencing now. Wall Street crash in 1929 led to the Great Depression and record levels of unemployment, which triggered the New Deal in 1933, establishment of the Third Reich, and rise of Hitler when Saturn entered Aquarius, which is what just happened. Just Saturn just went into Aquarius. All right, this square in Cambodia, 1974, 78, right in here is exact, in here 75, 77. In Cambodia, Pol Pot led the Khmer Rouge in a socialist revolution that killed millions. Worst airplane disaster in history in, I don't know how to say that, Tenerife? First soft landing on Mars. A square in 1998 to 2001. It was 99 to 2000, also with Saturn and Pluto opposition at that same time. The World Trade Center collapsed when you know, we know about the 9/11. It led to the introduction of the Patriot Act and the so-called War on Terror, the Millennium Bug scare that turned out to be a big nothing burger. All right, so those are just a couple of some of the times, the similar squares of these two, Saturn and Uranus. Now I want to share more. Doing pretty good. Give you, all right. So I want to give you a couple more things, actually get into what this means more specifically. I wanted to start big and give you some breakdown. So Mars, this is now, remember I showed you the Mars in the square Pluto, and they're at the December 23rd, tomorrow, actually starting now, but it's just funny, December 23rd, and they're at 23 degrees. You can't make this shit up. It's just amazing. Okay, so they're square, Aries and Capricorn. So what does that mean? We have Mars here on the left, this little circle with the arrow, and then the square sign, and then this is Pluto here. So that's what's happening now. What does that mean? Mars squares Pluto means power struggles and confrontations. This is what I'm saying now, the next like 36 hours, stay tuned. This is because of your, okay, this is just saying like, this is in, anyway, This is because of your desire to gain control over others or of situations. You may also notice a need to climb the ladder and achieve a more powerful position. If it's in your profession, even if you choose to play it safe, you may have to deal with other people trying to dominate you or challenge your ego or positions, like at work, could be. You see, by repressing the strong urge to meet your goals, the internalized hot energy will be expressed through the aggressive actions of others or of groups of people. So try to avoid being a victim. It is better to strive for success, but to do it in a careful way. Avoid ruthless, jealousy, and underhanded tactics. Also try not to be overly assertive and make others feel threatened. This especially applies to superiors or those who are in a position of authority. People with more power than you will have the upper hand during this transit. So now is not the time to be starting fights and making enemies. So think about this magnify this on the world. This is happening for everybody, not just you. I mean, you've got your own stuff. If you have if you have planets at 23 degrees in your chart, we would have to see how this is affecting you specifically. I'll try to, hopefully, we're getting far on time. All right. This is happening right now. Jupiter conjunct Saturn. These two, I told you that Jupiter's running fast and it's going to lap Saturn. It's catching up to it. So now they're together. So Jupiter and Saturn transit of a time of opportunity, growth, and good fortune. They've reached the end of a phase of life and will feel like you have to advance to a higher level. You may have a feeling of completion or contentment with your achievement thus far. Perhaps you realize that you can go no further in your current career, or just feel like a new challenge. You may find barriers to your progress which you need to climb over or go around. But if you have planned well or are self-employed, you have a lot of freedom and can grow within the existing structures of your life. Either way, you'll be breaking through barriers or expanding with larger boundaries. I think this is the thing for everybody. Everybody some way is going to be breaking through some kind of barriers or expanding within larger boundaries. We could see how it's affect each person by where it is in your chart. And I'll try to show you that real quick. Okay, so this is a time of greater self-awareness when you may realize you are not content with the things as they are. Too much responsibility, a boring job, stifling traditions and rules, not enough time, or a demanding boss or partner may become too much to cope with. You may even realize that your own fears and inhibitions are holding you back from happiness and success. If so, this transit will cause you much frustration that change becomes inevitable. Now let me share how we can look at that per person, how you can use astrology. And I'll just show you me because it's easier. All right. All right, so here's, if we look over here in my chart, over here on the far right-hand side, you can see that this house cusp, it starts at 3 degrees Aquarius, right? So we saw that those two planets, the Saturn and Jupiter, are in what, 1 degree? Or they're 0, actually. They're 0 degrees, and they're making that conjunction. So for me, they haven't moved up here yet. They're still in what's called the 6th house because they're at 0 degrees, which would be right here, right there. They're not. Carrie, yes.
We're not seeing your chart.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Share. Can you see it now?
Not yet. It started. There you go.
All right. Thank you. If that happens, just catch me. Okay, on the far right, you see that it's right here that it says 3 degrees Aquarius. That's where this starts. That's where that line is at. So if those two planets are at 0 degrees, they're not into the 7th house yet. They're still in the 6th house. They're right at the edge. So for me, the 6th house is, I have Capricorn in the 6th house, so that's where it's at for me. And that's the house of work and service and health. So they're coming together for me, and what I'm doing, it's like I'm having to get creative in my daily work. I've transformed my work this year. I've done I'm still doing, natural healing, but I'm doing a lot more online things. I've got 4 YouTube channels. I've done over 70 videos. See, and that stuff is moving into Aquarius for me, but it's in the house of work. So it's magnifying me working in the way I work. So that's just for me. So we would have to look at anybody else and we would see where that is in your chart. Let's just look at United States. I just pulled that up here. I didn't know how much I would get to go through. All right, so where is Capricorn in Aquarius in the United States? And we see down here, look at it's okay. Capricorn is here in the second and third, and then it's the second house that would be 0 degrees. So in the United States, actually, let me just do a real, well, I don't want to confuse you. So those planets right now are in the United States' second house. So that is going to reform our money, our possessions. Actually, let me just show you how that would look. File. You know, I don't want to do that. That'll take too long. Okay, but anyway, I was going to show you that they would be on the outside. But just imagine, you know, everything is keeps going. But this is a static picture of the United States. And those planets, because we know that there's 0 degrees in this Aquarius area here, they would be right there. They would be right after Pluto. They're going over. Actually, they just went over the United States Pluto all year. I mean, this last little bit of the year, the United States' Pluto is 27 Capricorn, and those planets just dragged over transformation. Didn't we have a big bunch of transformation? We're still doing that, but this has been a very transformative year. So this is the United States chart. And that's, you know, that's Pluto. And that stuff just hit the United States Pluto, conjuncted it, created all this stuff. Okay, how much time I got? Just a few minutes left. Stop share. I want to give you one other thing. Go back to, yes. All right, a little bit more here. Okay, so I wanted to get one other thing. All right, so here we got our Jupiter square Uranus, and this is coming up. Let's see, did I give you this one first? Yeah, yep. Okay, so this one is going to be, this is going to hit at 6 degrees, and this is going to be January 15th, right in the middle of the month. So this is going to be interesting here. Jupiter is in Aquarius, and it's going to be squaring Uranus in Taurus. And if you don't know what all that is, it's a lingo, don't worry about it, but it's a square. So these two planets, we've got the big sudden change in life direction or change in fortunes. Big opportunities could be close at hand. However, impatience and a strong urge to break free of restriction could lead to unwanted disruption and unexpected events. So the key with this transit is to proceed with caution, choosing which opportunities to follow and risks to take with some moderation. Extravagance and erratic behavior could lead to losses, so do not seek change just for the sake of change. This is not the time to go I'm just going to make the change. I'm just going to go for it. No, it's not. The strong need to explore the unorthodox side of life can lead to more personal freedom, excitement, and flashes of insight. But again, caution is required because you are more suggestible to all kinds of weird and even dangerous ideas and schemes. See, so this is a period of like 3 days, right in the middle of January. So this is going to be, think big or enlarge, anything eccentric, erratic, unusual, but there's going to be, it's a strange mix because it's a square. And then one more, I think I got one more. This is going to be a little bit earlier. This is going to be January 7th through 9th. This is a Saturn square Uranus. See, the Uranus is the planet here being squared by, now we have this one. I should have put it first, but I just put it this way. All right, so Saturn square Uranus. This is a major planetary aspect that occurs every 22 years. There's a series of 3 squares from February to December. So we're going to have this 3 times next year. But the first one is going to be at 6 degrees. So if you have anything at 6 degrees of your chart, you know, we can go see how that affects you. And you can always consult me. You know, I'd be happy to help you go through some of this stuff. That's one of the things I like to do, is to help people understand what's going on and what it's going to do and how do you work through it and how long is it going to last. All right, so Saturn square Uranus transit occurs about every 14 years. It can bring about change that you don't want. It also makes it harder to make the kind of change that you do want. This can be a very frustrating time of rising tension and sudden and expected changes, but it does not have to be like that. If you stay open-minded, patient, and flexible, at what seems to be challenges. You can turn them into opportunities to rid yourself of negative, restrictive, and limiting things in your life. It's best not to force change that you want, but to adapt to changing conditions. Wait to see what areas of life start causing problems and deal with that. Don't go fishing for them. This transit will make it obvious that areas of your life that are no longer working in your best interests. Your intuition and higher self-awareness may not be working so well. So take notice of simple, practical things that start making you tense and anxious. This is not the time to resist change, nor is it the time to overreact. A well-considered, methodical, patient, and step-by-step approach is best. Commitment and responsibility may be issues that cause stress in relationships or in your career. You may also come to realize that bad habits or outdated beliefs are blocking your progress. This can be a particularly challenging time if you rely on creative breakthroughs and intuitive insight for your work. If you lack inspiration or face a creative block, you may need to take a new approach to your work or try a new technique or change of scene. To change of scenery is always good. Also, your personal freedoms and rights may be restricted. Oh no. If your duties and responsibilities become too oppressive, it is better to make adjustments now before they crystallize into new structures of your life. We're going to experience this 3 times next year. So we'll have to take a look at that closer each time it happens. And is that all? Yeah, good. I got all of them there for you. So I wanted to hit some of the big ones. I'm losing lighting here, I'm sorry. But that are definitely, okay, out of focus. That are definitely going to be coming up and making an interesting year for us. And gosh, I hope it gives you a little insight, that we have to, I know that's annoying. I'm sorry. Yeah, there we go. So that it's something that we all have to deal with, and we can see that we all have to go through this, and then we can see individually where they are in our charts. Where is it going to be? And and we got a ninja coming in. So where are these going to be? Where are these going to be in your chart, and what part of your life is going to be affected? It's what area, what house are they going to be in, and how is it going to affect you? And then is it making any other aspects to other things? So that's all part of how we can use this to navigate through life and to understand, these things that are coming down, and, work through it the best that way we can. I know I got to keep it a little bit longer, but if there's any questions, put them out now. Otherwise, look forward to some interesting times. The world is just a reflection right now, totally, of all of this, and we can really see it. A lot of times there's little parts of it, but this is really big on a whole global level. And now with the way things are in this past year, I think people are way more keen to checking this stuff out. All right, so I'm going to let you guys go, and we'll keep track of these transits as they go on. And if you don't have your chart, let's get your chart and let's look at some of these. So Merry Christmas, everyone, and we'll see you soon.